Thank you. Very glad to be here with you, here in person and on the video. As she said, my name is Reverend Frank Nation. I am the Vice President of Mission and Culture for Tri-Health, and I will be wearing a mask, and I apologize for playing with it a little bit, but that's kind of a habit of it moving around and talking for 30 plus minutes. So today we're really going to be focusing on the topic of spirituality during the holidays, and I think this is a very important conversation to have just for the fact that this is a different type of holiday season. My role at Tri-Health as the Vice President of Mission and Culture, and that entails a few things: spiritual care, theology and ethics, community benefit reporting, mission and values integration. I'm the co-chair of our Leadership Development Institute. I just love what I do. It's really making sure Tri-Health stays grounded in our faith tradition, as well as the history, legacy of the Sisters of Charity and the German Methodist Deaconesses that founded and sponsors Tri-Health. So today I'm very excited to talk about this topic, and I want it to be engaging. I know we have video, but also engaging as well. Just for the fact of during the holidays this year, it's a little bit different. So when I talk about spirituality in the holiday season, it has a little bit of a different meaning right now. And so the agenda for today is really just talking a little bit of an introduction about the topic, defining spirituality. What does that mean? It means a few things, but I have a definition that I'll be using for the presentation. Looking at the COVID holiday season. It's just not a holiday season. It's actually, this is a different type of holiday season. It's a COVID holiday season. And then also looking at the various holidays that are taking place at this time. We have Christmas, Advent, Hanukkah starts tonight. So we're going to talk about just a little bit of the various holiday seasons that are holidays that are taking place during this time. And then looking at, how do we make sure we ground ourselves in a deeper meaning of the season. Because right now it's very easy to get caught up in the anxiety, to get caught up in the stress, COVID fatigue, the holiday blues. There's a lot of things that can really be impacting our celebration during this time. So we want to make sure that we kind of look at these different parts of the presentation today. So just a little bit about my role and background. I've been at Tri-Health for 11 years. I've been in the role of the Vice President for 6 years. I started off as a chaplain. As soon as I graduated high school, I went to Lee University to study Bible and theology. Right out of college, I went into seminary. When I was there, I knew right then and there I wanted to be a chaplain in a hospital. So in seminary, that's what I was really focusing on, was the ministry of healthcare and seeing healthcare as a ministry. And so I became a chaplain, served in various hospitals here in Cincinnati until I really started wanting to do education and move into administration as well. My role at Tri-Health is a system role, to where I'm really trying to make sure the system stays grounded in our history and legacy moving forward, because even as we grow, we want to make sure that we stay grounded in who we are and our identity. So the holiday season really is a time to really pause and to reflect. If you think about the holiday season, I had someone who said, my favorite holiday is Halloween. And I tried to why is Halloween your favorite holiday? And she said, once Halloween starts, that is when the holiday season begins, because you go straight from Halloween to Thanksgiving to the various holidays and New Year's, and it's just nonstop celebrations. So for her, it's not really celebrating Halloween, it's what Halloween signifies is the start of all the various holidays and traditions. And so holidays, another way of talking about it, are holy days, which really cause us to pause, to stop, and to reflect. So what are some of the expectations that you have during this time of year? I want to open it up to people here. When you think about your expectations, what are your expectations during the holidays? Anything? Anyone?
Being with family.
Being with family.
Yeah, gathering, seeing people you haven't seen over the year.
Gathering and see, I'm just speaking in the microphone so they can hear it. So gathering, seeing people you haven't seen in a while.
Yes.
What else? Anything else that pops to mind of some expectations during the holiday season?
Some sometimes it can be disappointment.
Sometimes there can be disappointment. Yep, expectations. I know sometimes my kids are like that. Hey, I want this present, and then they didn't get that present. They're disappointed. So yes, disappointments. So there's times of celebrating. You have the highs, you have the lows. So there's a lot of different expectations. There's high expectations, sometimes not reality. There's all kinds of different things that each and every one of us brings to the holiday season. Some of it's grounded in our childhood. Some of it is grounded in traditions. Some of it is grounded in relationships. So there are certain expectations we have this time of year that change over time. When I was a child, I had a certain expectations of what the holidays meant compared to now. With COVID-19, usually in my role, I probably go to about 10 to 12 different Christmas parties. I don't have to do that this year. It's been kind of nice. So the expectation was I'd be going to all these parties, and now I don't have to, and it's like, oh, my wife was like, you get to breathe a little bit. I'm like, I didn't even think about that. So there are all these different expectations of gatherings, and what does it mean? What does it mean for the religious holidays? What is your favorite part of this time of year? Not just the expectations, but what's your favorite part? What's your favorite part of this time of year?
Just the cheer that, most people have. And,
the cheer.
Celebrating and the decorating.
The decorations. I'm just saying it again for the microphone. So the cheer, the decorations.
Maybe sometimes traditions, you go out and see a creche set or a nativity set out in the park, or something that is repeated with the family members. So it's traditions of many types. So whether it's church or plays, I know I have always liked to go to the Playhouse in the Park to see the Christmas Carol. Also, Crossroads Church, they used to have a weighted every year. So some people really enjoy those type of things. Also, my wife's family's from Florida, so we know at this time, at some point, whether it's for Christmas or the week after Christmas, that's when we typically go to Florida for a week to see her family. So, which is usually my favorite part of the year, is to go to Florida, because being in Ohio, it's kind of nice to go to the beach during either Christmas or New Year's, depending on that time. But all of us have those expectations, or those favorite parts of the holiday season that bring meaning to our lives. So when we talk about spirituality and the holiday season, I want to unpack that a little bit so we kind of see what we mean by that. So I want to define spirituality for us as the word we'll be using in the presentation. Because spirituality is defined in many different ways, or there's sometimes a confusion between religion and spirituality. So I just want to kind of define that for us for our conversation. So religion, there's religion and spirituality. Religion is an organized group of common beliefs, doctrine, theology, and religious practices. So when we think about religion, think about a group of people that are organized around a common set of beliefs, doctrine, theology, or religious practices. That's kind of how I would like to define religion. It's very clearly defined as a group. Spirituality is a personal understanding of how a person makes meaning and purpose of the world and experiences they encounter. So it's how do they make meaning of their experiences? How do they make meaning with what's going on in the world? A personal interpretation of experiences in world, it's meaning making. So some people use their religion to help them with their spirituality. There's some people who are not part of an organized religious group, but they still have a spirituality where they're trying to make meaning of their life circumstances. So when we talk about spirituality during the holidays, we're really talking about how do people make meaning of their experiences during this time of year. So that's how we want to define spirituality. It's about meaning making, personal meaning making. And so a lot of times when we talk about it from a pastoral care chaplain point of view, we're really talking about spiritual care for people when they're in the hospital. How are they making meaning of their experience while they are sick? How are they making meaning of their hospital stay? How are they making those personal interpretations of what they're going through? Sometimes religion helps them. Those who aren't religious, they have other ways and means of making meaning of their experiences. So I want to talk about spirituality during the holidays, especially the COVID holiday season. This is a very different type of season. Wasn't how I was planning on this presentation going when I was first asked to talk about it, but I think we can't avoid it. So how do we make sense of the holiday season in the midst of COVID-19 and the coronavirus? Because there's some very unique things that are taking place that cause us to try to make meaning of the holiday season. You know, there's a lot of masks. I'm wearing a mask right now. People are coming in, they have to wear masks. People in here are wearing masks. So masks and being quarantined, people are trying to make meaning of that. They have different interpretations based upon their experience. What does that mean? You know, what's it mean for people around isolation, feeling stressed, having fear and anxiety of what's going on? So even though the holiday season is filled with the normal hustle and bustle, trying to buy presents, looking at how to organize the holiday, now we have this extra layer of anxiety and stress upon us. Also, there's loss and grief. If you think about some of the things you talked about at the beginning, was what are some of your expectations? What are some of your favorite parts of the holidays? We're going to lose some of that this year. So how do we reinterpret and make meaning of the holiday season? You know, we'll lose some of our traditions. Our family gatherings will look different. For those who might have, you know, I'm from a rather large family. My dad's one of 10. So when we all get together, there's about 60 of us. There's no way we can do that. So it's going to look different how we celebrate the holidays. Lots of loss, whether it's the loss of control, loss of identity, loss of a tradition. My father-in-law, my wife's dad, 2 months ago died. So loss of a father-in-law, loss of the person who puts the tree up, loss of the person who would pick at the turkey and food before it was to be set out. All of those little tiny things are losses. Also, what we call COVID fatigue. We're tired of COVID. So, you know, this has been going on for 10 months, and now we're in the midst of a third wave right here during the holiday season. So how do we make meaning of that? A lot of virtual versus in-person encounters. Even this presentation, we were recording it because we want to make sure that we can help people who can't be here because of limitations. At work, I'm having a lot of virtual meetings rather than in-person meetings. A lot of churches have gone virtual or trying to find ways to be creative in spacing. So there's a lot of that. On top of the normal every year holiday blues. We usually have, at this time without COVID, a lot of mental health crisis, depression. It's getting darker earlier, so less sunlight. A lot of losses where people have lost family members, so traditions look differently. So when we look at the holiday season, it looks very different than it did a year ago. So when we look at the COVID holiday season, we can see where we're busy, we're trying to make sense of what's going on. We still want to have the traditions that we have. You know, we typically are busy buying stuff, looking at cooking, all of those pieces that really bring on a lot of stress. Plus adding COVID to that, there's just a lot going on. So that's why I think it's very important to look at staying grounded into our spirituality during the holiday season, because that slows us down. That causes us to make sure that we are grounded in what the season is really all about. It's not all about the presents. It's not all about the cooking. It's not about all the decorating. It's not about putting up all the Christmas lights, which I've done all of that. That's not really what it's about. And when we're able to tap into our spirituality, into our religious practices, it gives us a deeper meaning of the holiday season. And during this season, there's a lot of various holidays. I just want to touch on a few of them. Just a few of them to kind of just let you see there's a lot going on even with the holiday seasons. So let me just do it this way. So we have Christmas, which when we talk about Christmas, it really is celebrating the birth of Jesus, which is December 25th. It's really looking at that time for Christians to really focus on the birth of Jesus, the ushering in of God's presence being with us in a very physical, tangible way, and how to stay focused on that tradition. And with that is a lot of pageantry, lights, symbolism, things that can help us stay grounded outside of the materialistic side of presents and food and decorating and lights and that thing. Another holiday is the Advent season. So Advent is the 4 Sundays before Christmas. It really is a sense of causing pause to stop for the 4 Sundays, the 4 weeks before Christmas, to really talk about the season of waiting and anticipating the birth of Jesus. And it really focuses on hope, peace, joy, and love. Again, helping us to get into that mindset, helping Christians get into that mindset of the anticipation of the real meaning of Christmas, to keep it more simple rather than the controlled chaos I talk about at home around the holidays. Another holiday which begins tonight is Hanukkah. Hanukkah begins tonight. It really commemorates the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem. It's a Jewish holiday. For the next 8 nights, they light candles to remember, it commemorates the rededication of the temple. So over the next 8 nights, really focusing on family coming together to light that candle, to really, again, help center and ground the Jewish community together. Another holiday during this season is Las Posadas. It's a Mexican holiday for our Latin community. And this is a time where they reenact Mary and Joseph's cold and difficult journey for shelter. And Posada means shelter, where in the evening that they come together as a community of celebration to commemorate the journey that Mary and Joseph were on, and that sense of the journey for shelter. Kwanzaa, it's an African-American holiday observed by African communities throughout the world. And this is where every African community throughout the world come to celebrate these different holidays where they light candles as well, to look at things such as family and other aspects of the African culture. And then also Hajj, it's a Muslim time to reflect on previous and future pilgrimages to Mecca, because a Muslim is to go on a pilgrimage to Mecca, so it's a time to reflect on previous pilgrimage or a future one that they will be going on. So you can see during this season, there is a lot of faith traditions that really focus on their spirituality to help them stay grounded in what they believe. And so one of the things that I have been trying to help Tri-Health as a faith-based organization to really focus on is really how does our faith, how does our spirituality really ground us in the midst of all of the chaos that's going on. So I've actually been using the Advent weeks, where I send out a Mission Monday every Monday that kind of just helps them stay connected to our faith. So this last week, we really focused on light. In a way that we talked about that was, if you look at all of these holidays, there's something to do with candles, something to do with light, and how do we really focus on, during the holiday season, to be a light to people in the midst of darkness. Because right now, the holiday blues are real, COVID fatigue is setting in, people are sad and depressed, and even in the most happiest times of the year, there's a lot going on. So we're really trying to help our team members at Tri-Health focus on what are those things that can really keep us grounded in the midst of chaos, to stay focused on light. So how can we be a light to one another? How can we be a light to our neighbor? How can I continue to find ways to keep that light within me lit? So I always try to draw on the spirituality and traditions and symbols to keep us grounded. So what are some of the things that keep you stressed about the holidays? What are some of the things that keep you stressed? Time. Lack of time because you're working and you're shopping and you're going. So time stresses you out. What else?
At this time, just making sure everybody's healthy.
Making sure everybody's healthy, that they're not getting sick, that they're practicing precautions not to get COVID. What else stresses you out?
I think this is for me more in the past than it is now, but I think it ties into what you said earlier of things being tied into your childhood or traditions or relationships, and sometimes it isn't what it used to be, and you sort of think about that, and sort of that makes, you can make you sad, whatever, but, you know, I have ways that I have, you know, dealt with that, so I don't feel that now, but I think that's a big anxiety thing. Everybody pictures, you know, good housekeeping Christmases in every home in the land, and it's not like that.
Yep.
Or like you say, people have died or things have changed, and then your traditions have to change, so.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, for those who are watching, and I'll say it, you know, for the microphone, there's a lot of loss during this time of year too. So there's a lot of celebration, but also there's a loss of people, loss of the way things used to be. Facebook's horrible for this because they give you, here, look what happened 5 years ago. Look what happened 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So today, my wife decided to post one of those of, hey, look what happened 9 years ago. And it was of my daughter when she was younger with my son who was younger, who they were laughing and hugging and kissing each other. Now they fight because they're teenagers and they wouldn't do that at all. And you kind of get sad, like, oh, remember when they used to love each other? Or they used to really be, you know, things were different. So the holidays, it gives an opportunity to celebrate, but also it really does cause us to mourn due to losses and grief. So it's very important to be aware of, even though it's supposed to be the happiest time of the year, it can also be the saddest time of the year. So it's very important. What else stresses you out? Anything else stress you out? For me, maybe this is a guy thing, stressing out about the perfect present that maybe I should be aware of. You know, what's the perfect present for my wife? And I never feel like I get it right. What's the perfect present for my kids? I think that's I'll just say that for me. I don't want to put it on all guys, but, you know, got to get the perfect present. And did I miss a hint somewhere? Because I wasn't really told that was a hint. But, you know, all of those type of things, they add up. So it's really, how do we make sure during the holiday season, the stress, the grief, the COVID fatigue, how can our spirituality help us during this time, rather than the holidays being a burden? How can the holidays really be a place to get us revived in our spirituality and purpose and meaning in life? So here are some themes, just some themes that come to mind for me around spirituality in the holidays. You know, it really it grounded in deeper meaning and beyond presents, food, and decorating. I think when we get into the deeper meaning, it really gets beyond the superficial, materialistic side of it. So when I think about the symbolism of light, you know, how do I keep that light within me lit? How can I be a light of love and compassion to my neighbor? How can I be a light and love and compassion to people I work with? Trying to find that deeper meaning. Almost all of the holidays really, all the various holidays I mentioned really focus on faith, hope, love, peace, joy. So how do we focus on maybe some of those words during the year and not so much on focusing on stress, loss, grief, perfect present, perfect food, all of that? How can we really focus on these very foundational, meaningful words during the holiday season? You know, remembrance. How do we really remember what the true meaning of Christmas is? The true meaning of Advent, the true meaning of Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. How do we really look at the true meaning and how society and the world, in a sense, I'm using very religious words, how they can take us away from the meaning. They want to focus on how much money you can spend, how much can you give away, and then you get caught up in presents and things rather than how do you really invest in yourself during this time. How can you really remember the meaning? Did you say something?
Well, I just sort of take a different meaning of one of your words, and it's a different spelling, presence versus Presence. And over the years, as you get older, I think you realize the presence of people
Yep.
are important to you, and you slow it down. So a group of my friends, we decided no more gifts. We'll just try to make an effort to try to get together. And that really, I think, forced us, because we weren't always seeing each other that much. So it forced us to let's make an effort to really get together and forget about, just sending a gift or something like that. And sometimes it's that little interaction with that person in the grocery store, or at the hardware store,
Exactly. And what she was saying, for those who might not have heard it, changing the way presence is spelled up there to presence, as in a physical presence. So, for example, my wife's dad recently died 2 months ago. Wasn't really expected. He had a stroke, and then he fell when he's at home, and he went to a rehab facility, and he got COVID because there's a COVID outbreak in the rehab place in Florida. So a couple months later, he died, and it was very shocking to us. It's still kind of a dream to me a little bit because I'm here, and I went down for the funeral and came back. But just knowing that his presence was gone at Thanksgiving was very real. And just little things like, what are we going to do with his truck? I'm getting the truck, by the way. Because it helps with the presence.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point.
So it helps with, my wife really wanted that truck because it was her dad's truck, and the other 2 siblings didn't want it. So she's like, I don't know what we're going to do with this truck, but we'll figure it out. But remembrance, presence is very important. And how do we really focus on that? It's not the presence as far as materialistic things as much as it is people and relationships. Reflection, to make meaning, and really taking that time to reflect, really thinking about your faith tradition, what faith tradition you come from, thinking about the holiday itself, how can it help you reflect on a deeper meaning of the holiday season, whether it's symbolism, whether it's creating new types of rituals, really using that time to reflect on how do you make meaning of the holiday season that gives you more meaning, and being aware of what are the things that keep you busy and really isn't that important. What are those things that are really important during this time? And then themes that come up as being grounded in purpose and not things. What is my purpose? What's the purpose of the holiday or the holy day? What's the real purpose and the meaning behind it? And not caught up in the commercialism side of it, but really what's the real purpose of it. And you'll hear songs, peace, joy, you'll hear songs about love, you'll hear songs about Christmas, you'll hear songs tonight, Adam Sandler, his Hanukkah song. So how do you really listen to the meanings of these songs and really get to the real essence of, what it means to be human, what's it mean to be spiritual, that we're in this a community together in a common home called Earth? How can we really get to a real solid, grounded purpose and meaning making of the holiday season?
One thing that just happened to me yesterday, and it sort of ties in here, and if you're going to talk about COVID or whatever, but I think people are changing some of their traditions. So instead of like sending a Christmas card, I got a call yesterday, and they said instead of sending a Christmas card, I'm going to reach out and talk to people.
Yeah.
And then this other lady called me the same day, and I thought, well, these are lovely. I don't even talk to you.
Right.
And I thought, I need to reach out to people the same way. So it's just sort of, and it's the holiday season, and that's why they did it.
Yeah.
And they just thought, I need to change up. Instead of writing a card, I need to talk to people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons that when we talk about the deeper meaning, especially during the COVID time, it's very important because of isolation, lack of contact, lack of doing things the way you used to do them, how to rethink the holiday season. and you're seeing people really struggling with trying to make meaning, or they're being very successful in it because they're being pushed to think differently. So it's very interesting to see how people are coping with the isolation, the masks, the quarantine, the curfew, the lack of Christmas parties, the lack of being able to give things away that you used to because you don't know, if you can go see them. My wife's birthday was Tuesday, and so my mom and dad, who are in their 70s, said, "Hey, can we come over?" And we're like, "You can't come in the house." So we had to put really the restriction on, you can come over, but you can't come in. And we want to give her a card. I'm like, you can put it in the mailbox and we can wave, and which was very hard because my mom and dad wanted to give her a hug and all this stuff. And we're like, we've already been through this with her parents. We know the dangers that are there, so we just are not going to take a risk of having anything on our shoulders that we did anything. So, yes, so things are different. So how do you navigate that? Typically we go to my parents' house for Christmas and be everybody together. So now we're like, well, can we do something outside, spacing, and we do it in shifts? I mean, we're trying to get creative because we all can't be together. So, but how do we really find out what is the deeper meanings that need to have those relationships? That's what we're realizing is important to us. So these are just some of the themes that come by, but how do you make meaning? So let me just kind of talk about, well, how do you make meaning? How can you really look at it from a spiritual perspective around the holiday season and not getting caught up in the commercial side of it? But really, traditions are very important, whether they are old traditions, and if they can't be carried out, how do you create new ones? COVID put some boundaries on that. But also, as you were saying earlier, there are just some natural things, such as my father-in-law is no longer with us. So there will be new traditions. Someone else is going to have to be the one who picks around on the turkey, or someone else will have to put up the Christmas decorations at their house. But what are some of the traditions that help you make meaning, or what can be some new ones? Sorry, this mask is getting to me. One of the things that we do at my house is we do an Advent reading every night. It's about 10 to 15 minutes. We've been doing this for about 10 years. So my son's 13. We started probably right when he was 3. But we've been doing it for 10 years, where it's a book we have, and every night there is about a 10-minute reading, and we do that. And even my 19-year-old teenager comes down grumpy about it and stomping her feet, but she knows what we're doing, and they know the story, but they also know it's a tradition. It's a tradition of us coming together. The TV's off. Sometimes it's halftime of the Monday night football game, but we find a way of coming together every night to take time to pause and really think about what is the meaning of this season. So it's a tradition that we've been doing. We're actually going to just read the Bible verse and not the story, and the 13-year-old's like, no, we got to read the story, because we was even going to try to make it easier. But no, they got to read the story. Make meaning with beliefs. So how do we help people re-engage their religious traditions, if they're part of that? And you see that a lot, where people throughout the year, might not be connected to their religion or their community of faith, but during the holidays, begin to see them reconnect to those faith traditions and faith communities. You'll see a lot of people who want to do food drives, who want to reach out and give to people and reach out to the poor and underserved and marginalized, because it gives meaning during this time. Rather than being selfish, it's about giving to others. Another way of making meaning is symbolism. Huge things, lights. The lighting of the Cincinnati Zoo. We put up our lights last week, and what did that mean for us? Candles, the rituals of candles, of Advent, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all of these different traditions. Symbolism means a lot. The wreath, the cross, the manger. Even Santa Claus, in a secular sense, Saint Nick, if you dig deep, you can find the spiritual meaning behind Santa Claus, is another way. Community, another way of making meaning. Friends, family, church. it really is all about a relationship with God, relationship with others, and relationship with self. How do you really stay connected to your light inside? How do you stay connected with others? And how do you stay connected with God? Relationships, and then always remembering God is with us. And that's really, when you think about the symbolism of the various faith traditions, it's all about how God is with us. What are other ways that you make meaning? How do you make meaning of the holidays? How do you, I just gave you a whole bunch, how do you make meaning for yourself around the meaning of Christmas and this time of year? What do you do?
We go cut down a Christmas tree,
Mm-hmm.
celebrate Christmas, the day after Thanksgiving every year.
The day after, so it's a tradition.
It's a tradition.
It's a relationship, it's a symbol, it's belief, it's tradition.
We do it with family.
Yep. That's very important. Well, what is something that you do to help you make meaning of the...
Well, and my traditions have had to change over the years for a lot of different reasons. And one is now on Christmas Eve, we call it the Orphans' Christmas, but my one friend invites people in. It's all different families, some that might not travel to their families till after the holidays, or it might be neighbors, or it might be friends or relatives, and we gather there. Well, that won't happen this year.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of something I can substitute, or keeping her in mind for that, so I don't know what that's going to be. But that has always been a nice new tradition.
Yeah.
Once your family members aren't around, or you don't have the old traditions. And I have like a community through my church group, which have been very supportive, over the years, and we spend time trying to dwell on more
Yeah.
substantial things than just the, cosmetic kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say with COVID too, from a healthcare perspective, knowing that the numbers are going up. The numbers are going up currently as we're speaking and videotaping. The numbers are going up. So there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. But also, if you tap into our spirituality of hope, we also have a hope of a vaccine. We're hoping of returning to some sort of semblance of what it used to be like. We're hoping for the removal of some restrictions. So how do you use, that value of hope, the value of peace, the value of patiently expecting something? So even our spirituality can help us in terms of what we're experiencing with COVID. We know that in the holidays we talk about new things and loss. Well, with COVID, we've experienced some new things, new technology, new innovations, but also we've experienced loss. So how can we parallel our spiritual experience with, our current situation? So there's a lot of being aware of how can that help us. Any other questions right now about spirituality? I want to kind of open it up around spirituality and the holidays. Any questions? Leave that open right now for you all. Any questions that you might have?
Not a question, but I do think that tie-in with COVID is even more strong, because I think people just in the past few weeks after Thanksgiving get more scared. How much can we do, can't we do at Christmas? Who do we do it with? How do I get through these dire winter months if I do stay in Ohio and I don't go to Florida, or I don't go, or you don't have this family you live with, you might be more on your own.
Yeah.
It's raising a lot of questions, especially that COVID tie-in.
Yeah, and even now, hearing Ohio is like on one of those traveling lists, and so I want to go get my father-in-law's truck, and I'm like, how can I get down to Florida and come back with this truck? Because again, the truck's symbolic. The truck is a way of being present, having His presence with us, and so there's a lot of, how do we navigate COVID, and how do we use our spirituality, our faith, our religion to navigate it? So one of the things that I brought, and it will be part of the link to the video, is various descriptions of the holidays. So we have Christmas, have Las Posadas, Advent, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and Hajj. I have all of those in this PowerPoint to where it gives a history of each of the holidays to give a deeper meaning of what does it mean, so you can read it, learn about it, because as you learn, you begin to get into a different spiritual place that gets you away from the commercialism of the holiday season and really getting back to our faith, learning about others' faith to get us grounded during this time. So when there is stress and anxiety, we can always go back to our spirituality and faith to ground us and help us have hope in the midst of everything that we're going through. So we will have this to where you can learn more about the religious holidays during this time, be part of the link. Also, we talked about maybe having some of these posted around so people can learn about it, because it's very important to stay connected to our hope during this time and our faith. You think about Pope John Paul, you think about Jesus, you think about the rituals of Hanukkah. It all connects us to hope, to where we can see light in the midst of darkness. So as I close today, the thing that I want to make sure I leave with you is that sense of hope and how to use your faith, your spirituality to help you stay grounded and navigate the ups and downs of the holidays, the ups and downs of COVID, the ups and downs of relationships, to really help you stay connected to something that's deeper, something that is very meaningful, to help you navigate a lot of the chaos that takes place during the holidays. Because this really is a time of joy, peace, and love to the core of who we are, not necessarily to the commercialism of it all. So how can we really stay connected to our spirituality so we can thrive during this time? Not only during the holiday season, but also moving forward beginning January for all 12 months. So we can have a rebirth of our faith moving forward. So I want to thank everybody on the video and thank you all that's here. My prayers are with you during this time, that you find that way of staying connected and keeping that light inside you burning brightly. So thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.